Is it possible to try to manifest an SP that the universe doesn't want you to be with? You are the universe. There's nothing outside of you judging whether or not you can have what you want. You decide. So that's coming from some sort of fear of yours. Fear of failure, of not being able to actually have the person you want. Or some sort of self-concept story that, like, you're not lovable, or that people have, you know, people may have said to you that, like, I don't know, so for a lot of people that I talk to, it's a cultural or a religious thing, like wanting to date people outside of their community and all those things. You can have whatever you want. Those things, anything that says you can't have what you want is a limiting belief. And so it's about flipping that and telling a different story. So is it possible to try to manifest an SP that the universe doesn't want you to be with? You are the universe, so you decide. You decide whether you can have that person or not. And when you decide it, you have to stick to the story until it downloads 100% into your world. You've been trying to manifest SP for months, no movement, so starting to feel the universe is against it. No, it's you, it's the fear that it's not going to happen. You're focusing too much on the time. When you focus on time, guys, you manifest more time between you and your manifestation. So what are you doing to distract from the time? What are you doing to focus on you? Are you doing things you enjoy? Or are you sitting at home just constantly trying to affirm as much as possible because you've heard that it's your thoughts and your subconscious beliefs that manifest? Like, yes, but the only reason you would have to affirm 100% of the time is if you're not doing things that you enjoy enough that the opposing thoughts don't pop up as much. And also, when you're actually just sitting at home affirming all the time, you're actually just giving more opportunity for the opposing thoughts to pop in because you're focusing so much on affirming, and then you're like, I'm saying it 100 million times, why isn't it happening? You're actually just making the process so much harder for yourself. So my advice would be, you're probably also quite anxious about it, doing some nervous system regulation, box breathing or something like that, cold, like dipping your face in cold water in the mornings, like ice cold water in a bowl, things like that, to calm your nervous system, and do things that you enjoy. And then only really address it as it naturally pops into your mind. That will naturally do the reprogramming. Juzzy Wuzzy Fuzzy, you just moved to Wollongong on manifesting principles. Awesome. Well done. Wanted hero superfan. Quickest way to convince the subconscious. Honestly, someone asked me, like, what would be my number one tip to more efficiently get into the state the other day, and I said, whilst it may sound counterintuitive because it's your thoughts and your subconscious beliefs that manifest, doing nervous system regulation work. Because when you're not coming from an anxious place, you're not thinking as many opposing thoughts to have to counteract them. So then you're going to convince the subconscious mind more, because you will then you'll think about it less, the thing that you want less in general, which means that, and you're not, like, once you sort of calm the nervous system, you're not on that loop, right? It starts with the thoughts, but then your thoughts program your body, and then it gets caught on a loop, and that's the thing I learned the hard way. Eventually you can cut the circuit with your thoughts if you can persist through it, but a lot of people don't get to that point. They give up before they get to that point. So doing some nervous system regulation work, and then just addressing the thoughts as they naturally pop into your head, and and flipping opposing thoughts as they naturally pop up, which they will do less when you're feeling calmer. But you can also incorporate things like scripting, like affirming out loud, and doing that kind of routinely for a while. But I don't really advise a routine for like the forever picture, because that can sort of instill a limiting belief in people subconsciously that if they miss a day or they don't have a routine or whatever, that they won't get what they want, and that's not the case. Obviously taking advantage of when you're in a relaxed state, so as you're falling asleep or as you're freshly waking up, or if you're just like, if you like meditation, I'm not really like someone who meditates myself, but anything that gets you into, or when you're naturally in a really relaxed state, doing your tool of choice in terms of focusing your thoughts, so your visualization scripting, saying affirmations or thinking affirmations or listening to affirmations at those times, that's when your mind is most susceptible to suggestion as well. Just again, don't get obsessed with, I have to do this, otherwise I won't get what I want, because that's creating a condition that will cause a detour. Is it normal to feel like you're outgrowing friends, etc. when you're manifesting? Yeah, and eventually they'll catch up, but a lot of people like just decide to move on before that happens. And then sometimes they'll come back in and you can decide, like, it's always your choice. But yeah, that does happen. Same thing with, romantic situations as well. A lot of people find by the time their SP catches up to their new, like, self-concept and everything, that they're past it, or they've met someone who already, because, like, remember, everything happens via the path of least resistance, the most efficient path. And that part of that is people who already possess the attributes or physicality or whatever it is that you want in a specific person, they'll show up first because they already have those attributes. So the signal's going out in all directions, and whatever can bring the thing, because the thing that you want, sorry, I go off on tangents before I even finish sentences, can bring the things that you want to you first, will. And some of you might be thinking, well, like, but I want this person, that's what I want, so why isn't that coming first? Well, that's because at the end of the day, I'm not saying you can't have a specific personal thing or situation that you want. You 100% can, and you're allowed to have that, and that's why you have the desire. But usually what you want is the feeling that you think that thing or person can give you. So if someone else comes along that fulfills all those things for you, which you should really be giving to yourself anyway, that's part of the self-concept work. When you fill your own cup with what you want, it overflows into your world, and that's what projects out, and that's what you see and experience. But yeah, it's always a choice. You can entertain a second SP who already has those attributes until first SP comes along. It's always your choice. But some people decide, well, no, I've already been, like, really happy with this second person. Why would I stop seeing them just because original SPs come along? It's always your choice. Fuzzy, fuzzy, fuzzy. Sounds like my balls are dropping because it's in the morning. Processed doubts and focused on processed doubts, the doubts, and focused on the desires, on what you wanted to see. In terms of your move that you manifested, yeah, awesome. Just keep in mind as well, like, you don't have to ignore necessarily what's happening in your physical world. When it comes to things that are really going to... So, for example, when I say that, I mean, like, the example that I used most recently in a video was the cost of living crisis, right? It's only a crisis if you think it's a crisis. I've just manifested, like I said, a 10% pay rise, which is not usual. It's 1 to 3% in Australia. That's a usual pay rise. And at this kind of time, like, to get a pay rise, if we're going off logic, manifestation isn't logical, not a lot of people will be dishing out pay rises right now, right? But also, like, seeing the cost of things rising, people are freaking out. And it's like, you can acknowledge it, but just also say, like, lucky I'm a wealthy person. Lucky money's never been an issue for me. That's kind of how I've approached it, because it's like, you know, seeing things like muesli bars go from, like, $4 to $7 or $8 in the space of a few months, it's like, fucking hell, like, that's a price hike. But then I just go, oh, well, it doesn't matter. At least I'm, like, lucky I'm wealthy. Lucky money's not an issue for me. And like I said, I now have more money left over after I pay for my necessities, discounting the money I make for my business, than I did before all of this stuff started happening. So, but when it comes to things like love or disappointing friends or family, when it comes to people, it can be a little bit harder, right? So putting yourself in a situation where it's in front of your face in the physical world can be harder to tell the new story over the top of, and in those instances, it's usually better to create some distance. Doesn't have to necessarily be no contact on purpose, but that can be really helpful. A lot of people find that they get a lot of movement when they do that because they're not having to counteract as much of the old story in the physical world. Yeah, and they're not holding the old story in place, because remember how energy works, right? If you know anything about the double slit experiment, it shows us, and it's an experiment, it's not the double slit theory, it's an experiment. So we know that energy is in waves until we're looking at it, observing it. So what you're seeing in your world, that tells me like how the simulation theory could be real, right? Could be what we're living, because this could be like a virtual reality headset, and everything like behind me might not actually be there until I'm looking at it. It could just be waves of energy. So if you're staring at something that's unfavorable, you're kind of holding it in place. And you can override that with thoughts, but it's going to be harder. Hey Daisy, how's it going? Easiest way to get into SATS. I mean, you're naturally in SATS when you are falling asleep and when you're in the process of waking up. I think it's like 20 minutes or something, 20 minutes or an hour, I can't remember, but you guys can Google that, in terms of like how long it takes you to get out of the same state that you're in, the state you're in when you wake up. I think it's theta. So like, you know, work with what your body already does. Your body is already like, requires a lot of things to keep you alive that are naturally part of the manifestation process, right? So as you're like falling asleep, you're in SATS. When you're waking up, you're in SATS. When you daydream, you're visualizing. So if you're not in that, like I'm a big daydreamer, but I'm not great at forcing visualization. So it's really just about then being aware, oh, I'm daydreaming right now. What am I thinking? Okay, how can I make this? Because like we have the tendency to like, you know, and in the conversations, we have those naturally. But a lot of the times it's us like preempting an argument or something, you know, so then we change it. Like, okay, this isn't the story I want to be telling. I actually want it to be this way. Daisy, you're sick right now. What should you do to relax? In relation to manifestation? Put things on that make you laugh that are unrelated to your manifestation to keep you from thinking as many opposing thoughts. And then, you know, is that what you mean? Like when you're like tired and feeling run down, like how can you still stay on top of your thoughts? Personal recommendations for things that make you laugh. New Girl season 1 to 6, season 7 doesn't exist as far as I'm concerned. Cougar Town I watched recently, fucking hilarious. And in terms of just feel-good things to watch, Clear Eye is always my recommendation. There's something in it for everyone.